Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am Kelly Tolliday and I am your host. Today is an extremely special day because we are officially celebrating one whole year of the podcast. We launched our first episode a year ago today, and boy, has it been a wild ride. When I first started preparing for the launch of the podcast last July, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. A little bit of a backstory. I always knew I wanted to start a podcast. I listened to a lot of podcasts in the car and on my walks. And I knew that I wanted to run one. I just didn't know which topic I wanted to run with. I'm heavily invested in yoga and wellness and travel and motherhood and entrepreneurship. And they're all topics that are also heavily saturated, but I just didn't know which direction I wanted to take. And last July at the co-working space I work at, Child and Company, they came to me with an idea to use one of their conference rooms and turn it into a podcast recording studio. And I immediately just blurted out, I want to start a travel podcast. So my gut instinct and the universe had my back, and I haven't looked back since. And I'm so glad that I went on this journey. Everything that you have seen, heard, listened to from start to finish, I basically have done myself, from the branding, scheduling guests, interviewing the guests, editing, sound mastering, social promotion, and everything in between. Very similar to traveling, I love learning new things and acquiring new skills and challenging myself. And back in when I graduated college, I there was no such thing as social media marketing back then. I think there was Facebook, maybe Instagram had just started coming out, but no brands were properly using social media back then, and there was a need for it. And I learned everything I needed to learn. I read the blogs, I watched the videos, I took the courses. I love having this level of traveler's mindset, which I talk about a lot, this beginner mindset of being curious and, like I said, challenging myself. So even though I wasn't traveling every day, I still feel like it every single day that I get to run this podcast because I get to talk to new and old friends from around the world. I get to learn about topics that I might not have known about before. I get to learn about new destinations. And on the backside, on the back end of the podcast, I get to learn new skills that I never thought I would learn how to use, like an AI editing tool for podcasts or how to properly promote on social media. The strategy behind podcasts. I love all of that. And I've loved being able to bring this to you for the past year. And so we were running weekly episodes from when we started in last September till about January. I reached a level of I can't do all of this on my own anymore, but I knew I wanted to continue the podcast. I definitely didn't want to quit. So a friend of mine she works in marketing. She suggested biweekly episodes, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. Like it just felt like the episodes had time to breathe. I had time to promote, that each episode got the space and the credit that it deserved. And I've loved this biweekly format. And I hired an editor and a producer. Her name is Simona. Hi, Simona. You are amazing. I know you're listening because you're editing this right now. And she has taken the podcast to the next level in terms of the sound quality you're listening to, in terms of helping me with the strategy. And I get to focus on what I love and do best, which is connect with guests and connect with the audience and be able to look ahead in the future to see what topics are going to be the most valuable and the most impactful for you. And that's what I love to do. This year has also been a massive year of transformation, of course. That's what I love. But it's been a year of me really leaning into who I am and what I want to offer to the world. And, I feel like I've kind of been on this journey of awareness and spirituality and uncovering more and more of who I am at my core for probably like the last 10 years or so. Travel has played a huge part in that for me. But specifically, this project with Transform with Travel, with the podcast, I kept trying to figure out, well, where does this fit in the ecosystem of not just my business? Because I have a business with my business partner, Chloe. We have R&R, which is all about the retreats and yoga and wellness and travel. But I also have this podcast, which helps the retreats, of course, but it felt like something that this was something big, that it felt like something that I was finally stepping into who I am supposed to be and the offer and service that I can be in the world, apart from just being who I am, which I think is everyone's ultimate purpose, is being authentically and unapologetically who you are. But taking my skills and my experiences and my passion, kind of like a Venn diagram, and honing in on what are all those combination of those three. And so in February, I got an opportunity to join. I got an invitation from a friend of the podcast who asked me if I book travel outside of our own group retreats and tours. And I was like, no, but I have a few friends who do. I can refer you. And it was kind of like a smack in the face like, wait, why don't you book custom travel? Why don't you create tailor made experiences for people who trust you because they know that this is what you do and what you do best? So I kind of sat with it for a little bit. And then a couple weeks later, as the universe does, it unfolded in a invitation for me to join a travel agency that's really disrupting the whole industry of travel advising and planning. And I've actually interviewed the CEO of this travel agency, Fora. She'll be on the podcast in a couple weeks. I got an invitation to join and I did. And it took me a couple months to really wrap my head around, okay, is this like one more thing that I'm going to do? But the more that I uncovered a lot of the training and the support and the education, and I've really like trained myself into how to properly be the best service that I can be for my clients, the last couple months, I have really been promoting that I am officially accepting clients for my custom travel advising and planning services. And it is going to fall under the bigger brand. I am expanding the brand of Transform with Travel podcast so that Transform with Travel is really your one-stop shop for intentional travel experiences and education. So within Transform with Travel, I offer custom, tailor-made travel advising and planning at an array of different packages depending on your financial needs and what you just need support-wise. We also have the podcast here, which is totally free, no charge to you. You get bi-weekly inspiration and get access to some of the world's top leading experts in different areas of travel, of health, of personal growth, as well as amazing friends of mine who have done just amazing things. You get all that for free with the podcast. And also, we are launching this month our new resource for you at just $27. So it's a steal, an ebook called The Mindful Traveler. And so this ebook basically takes you on a journey of learning how to navigate the inherent stress that it can feel sometimes, this anxiety or overwhelm that sometimes you feel when you travel, and turning that into a smile. So we say navigate travel stress into a smile, and we use mindful tips, mindfulness techniques. I have spent over a decade in the wellness industry, well over a decade traveling and in the travel industry. And I marry these two levels of expertise together, tried and true practices that I've used and applied in my own personal life, in my own personal travels. And I blend this decade plus of experience into an ebook for you so that you can walk away knowing that, yes, there might be some bumps in the road when you're traveling. That's kind of part of the experience, but how to bring yourself back to center when those things do happen. And so we have tons of education on why it can feel stressful when you travel, the benefits of travel itself, tons of strategies and techniques on how to overcome some of those pre-travel jitters when you get overwhelmed at your destination, flying anxiety. If you have anxiety when you fly, we have tons of strategies for that. There are guided meditations for turbulence. There's guided meditations on how to ground yourself in the present moment when you start to feel a little overwhelmed, as well as journal prompts, as well as tons of podcast episodes that I've linked that are specific to that topic. So that can be found on our, drumroll please, our brand new website, transformwithtravel.co. So transformwithtravel.co. You can find all of these resources on how to book a free call with me if you're interested in planning an amazing travel experience with intentionality and really going deeper into like why you want to travel to that certain country or what you want to get out of that trip. You also be able to find information about the podcast as well as how to download and purchase our brand new ebook, The Mindful Traveler. For me, I love being able to marry these two experiences of the travel piece as well as the transformation piece, which I think there's so much that goes underneath those two umbrellas, which includes your wellness, it includes your personal development, it includes your connection to other people, your social connections, which we know is so valuable to our overall life longevity, as well as our health and all of the goodness that comes from life. And being able to really bring this into one home space, into one home base for you to find all the resources and support that you need. And starting this podcast back in July was just a little breadcrumb, I feel like, from the universe being like, just try this little project, which was not a little project. I'll tell you that. It's taken over my whole life, but I love it. And it was a little breadcrumb and another little breadcrumb. And I just keep following the breadcrumbs that has led me to this amazing announcement on our 1-year anniversary of the podcast that Transform with Travel is your home base for intentional travel experiences to enrich your life, being able to support you to explore the world and discover yourself at the same time. And being able to really help you create memories that will last a lifetime and cultivate that traveler's mindset. I'm almost there as like a travel coach. Like on top of advising and the logistics and the operations behind it, I'm really there standing shoulder to shoulder with you, coaching you through how to utilize these new skills that you'll learn while you're traveling and integrate them into your daily life so that you can really apply them at home. And there's so much that I can go into on that. That's going to be a whole nother podcast episode coming up soon on how cultivating a traveler mindset can help you succeed in life. But this is what helps you grow into your most favorite version of yourself. And that's what I just genuinely love helping people to do, whether it's through travel or through the yoga or through the retreats that I do with my other business, R&R. We run amazing retreats and tours around the world. So you can check that out in the show notes too, if you're interested to see where we're going next year. But all of this is to be able to become and grow into your most favorite version of yourself. I'm not going to say best self because that's a little bit unrealistic. I think your most favorite version of yourself is sometimes the one that laughs too loud or sometimes the one that goes for the second pastry because it's just so good. The most favorite version of yourself that just thrust into life and is there to live life to its fullest and learn the depth of who you are. And I think travel is one of the ultimate ways to get there. So with all of this said, I just want to thank you so, so much for being on this ride with me for the last year. You guys have day in and day out showed up. You've liked the post. You've shared the episodes with a friend. You've left amazing reviews for me. I could not continue to do this podcast every day if it wasn't the support for obviously Simona, my editor and producer, who does all the beautiful editing behind the scenes, but also because of you. And as we head into year 2 of the podcast, we will be talking about all of the things that us travelers, the things that we search Google for, or the things that we think silently in our minds, but we think we're the only ones thinking it or wondering it, or we ask our travel buddies about, or we post in the travel Facebook groups about, like all these like niggling questions or pieces of advice that we're trying to get from other people. I am scouring scouring the internet and the data to bring you exactly what us travelers are wanting to hear. And I'm interviewing our guest with you, the listener, in mind. So please reach out to me directly if there's a topic you would love to hear about, or that there's a fear that you have that you want to unravel a little bit more, or anything. Really anything at all. Like it doesn't even need to be specifically travel related, like something around personal development or wellness or whatever it might be. Family life, motherhood, like how we bring that into travel. There's so many places and spaces that we can get into with this podcast, and I'm here for all of it. So please reach out to me directly. I am on social media more than I should, but I just love being able to have these one-on-one conversations with listeners, with my community, with my friends. And I'm here in the DMs more than I should be, but it's because I just genuinely love connecting with people in that way. So you can find me on Instagram. The brand's Instagram is at Transform with Travel. You can also find all the podcast clips in there too. You can also find me personally at kelly.tolliday. If you want to email is a great place to go. It's transformwithtravel@gmail.com. And then, of course, our brand new website where you can find all of the things I just spoke about is www.transformwithtravel.co. That's .co. And you can find all of the things in there. How to book a free call for a travel advising service or question that you might have, how to access the podcast through the website, as well as downloading and purchasing the Mindful Traveler ebook, which just launched this month too. September is a big month, as well as my two daughters' birthdays are in September too. So it's a very exciting month. I want to thank you again for being here with me along the ride, sitting next to me on that plane and buckling up for every single episode, because it has just been one of the greatest honors of my life is to be on this mic, and that there are people listening on the other side is still wild to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Transform with Travel podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of inspiration, adventure, and exploration. If you felt inspired by this episode, please rate and review in whatever streaming app you're listening from. This allows us to spread the word even more and continue to serve up weekly doses of adventure. As always, we'd love if you could share the episode with someone in your life who you think will benefit from this conversation. Thanks so much for listening. This is your reminder to get out there and keep on exploring.